Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The Gaza Solidarity Encampment is gone on the campus of UC San Diego, but the protests are not over. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. Dozens of people were arrested, many of them students, when police moved to clear the camp this morning. This afternoon, protesters rallied outside the downtown Central Jail, calling for students to be released and charges dropped. The director of the Islamic Center of San Diego says he was pepper sprayed by a sheriff's deputy earlier today.
But what the sheriff officers did, they pulled up their guns. And this is not acceptable. They pulled up their guns in front of peaceful, unarmed, innocent students. And when I challenged them why they did so, when I asked them to put their guns away, they pepper sprayed me in my eyes and in my face.
KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on the police action that ended the encampment for Palestine.
The abrupt early morning wake-up call came quickly. A team of UC San Diego police, CHP officers, and San Diego County Sheriff's deputies came in riot gear, ready to clear the encampment that had been built in the shadow of the Geisel Library. As the tents came down, police arrested 64 protesters, 40 of them UCSD students, the others unaffiliated with the university. That led to this.
Put it away! Shame on you! Put it away! Shame on you!
Some faculty, along with hundreds of students and community supporters, marched across the campus, angry about the camp teardown and arrests, and they pushed back.
Put away the gun! Put away the gun!
The group forced some of the law enforcement officers into the structural and materials engineering building. They continued their chanting and marching over to the Price Center, considered to be the heart of the university, with a food court, student lounge, and meeting spaces. Protesters used patio furniture and barricades to block the doors and force police back inside the building. All of this happened as the former encampment was completely cleared, leaving no sign of what was once there. Since last Wednesday, this library walk has been the epicenter of the students' protest. On Sunday, it reached a climax when counter-demonstrators showed up. Supporters of Israel face-to-face with supporters of Palestine, together only to declare how far apart they are. The Gaza Solidarity Encampment was established by its organizers as a place to occupy, while demanding the university's administration divest from all of its Israeli financial interests. The Jewish community that came here had their interests in Israeli hostages, still being held by Hamas in Gaza.
Let them return the citizens, the innocent civilians, babies that they kidnap, and then we can talk about common ground.
From campus, the student march marched on to the downtown jail, where those arrested were taken. School administration decided to make all classes remote today, in hopes of maintaining safety and bringing back calm to the campus. MG Perez, KPBS News.
A similar scene took place at UCLA today. Dozens of protesters were arrested by police at a parking structure. More than 40 people were detained and loaded into a sheriff's department bus to be taken to jail. 2 journalists were among those arrested, prompting criticism from media organizations. UCLA had attempted to resume regular campus operations today after a chaotic week of protests over the Israel-Hamas conflict. In response to the demonstrations, the school is now creating an Office of Campus Safety.
Well, after some wet weather that the state experienced this previous weekend, along with some wintry weather, overall we're into a dry pattern now this week, and that's, again, something that we do expect this time of the year as we have moved out of the wet season. We will have some gusty winds developing over the mountainous terrain, some of the gorges in the coming days, and there will also be a bit of a warming trend over some of the interior valleys as well as the deserts. We'll talk about those temperatures coming up.
Surfers are calling for more security in Ensenada, Mexico, following the murder of 3 tourists. Relatives confirmed the tourists were 2 Australian surfers and 1 American on a trip to the Baja Peninsula. They went missing last weekend. Mexican authorities say thieves apparently killed the 3 while stealing their truck. Dozens of surfers performed a paddle-out ceremony and rallied along the beach yesterday. 3 suspects are being held in connection with the case. Next month, Mexico's voters will elect a new president. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis explains why the election matters to both Mexico and San Diego's cross-border region.
No matter what, the 2024 Mexican election will be historic. That's because both of the candidates, Claudia Sheinbaum and Xochitl Gálvez, are women.
I cannot stress this enough because whatever happens, we're going to have a woman in the Mexican presidency.
Rafael Fernández de Castro is director of the Center for U.S.-Mexico Studies at UC San Diego.
That is going to be the first woman governing in North America. Not Canada, not the U.S., but Mexico first.
Experts KPBS spoke to say that Sheinbaum and Gálvez come from different backgrounds and have competing ideas for solving Mexico's biggest problems. Sheinbaum was mayor of Mexico City from 2018 to 2023 and represents the popular Morena Party, which was founded by current Mexico President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Flavio Oliveri is director of the Center of Excellence in Competitiveness and Entrepreneurship at CETIS University in Tijuana. He says that a Sheinbaum presidency would in many ways be a continuation of what López Obrador started.
She's very close to the current administration, so very, very close to the current administration. And the main message is the continuity of what has been started.
And that could both help and hurt Sheinbaum. On the one hand, López Obrador has a 61% approval rating. Sheinbaum wants to expand some of the welfare and retirement programs that have made the current president so popular. But López Obrador also has his critics, especially in the country's business community. Saúl Sandoval is a professor of economics at CETIS.
Her slogan is continuity in terms of López Obrador's policies. Okay? And at some point, some voters have questioned themselves about if the performance is not that good, how come are you selling yourself that you want to continue with this type of policies?
According to Sandoval, one of the major critiques of López Obrador is his preference of big government over the free market.
Following Andrés Manuel López Obrador's policies, she wants to concentrate power in the executive government. Okay? If that continues, that may send a message to national and international investors that Mexico, perhaps to some extent, wouldn't be as safe to invest in.
And it's on this issue that Gálvez can draw a clear distinction with her opponent. She credits the free market to her success in life and believes that it is part of a key for a prosperous future in Mexico. Gálvez was a businesswoman and entrepreneur before becoming a politician. She represents a coalition of 3 different political parties that have joined forces to defeat the Morena Party.
The story that she tells for the audience is that she was very poor when she was little, and then she began selling stuff in the streets, and then she was able to go to Mexico City and study this engineering career.
Whereas López Obrador believes in centralizing power in the federal government, Gálvez prefers to remove bureaucratic obstacles preventing Mexicans from gaining economic mobility.
With Xochitl Galvez, she is more focused on entrepreneurship, on supporting small and medium enterprises. And that's expected because she comes from a business environment.
Despite their differences, Olivieri believes that Galvez and Sheinbaum have much in common, particularly with their views of the U.S.-Mexico relationship.
I think both candidates have very clear understanding that the economic well-being of this region is strictly tied to the cross-border economy, right? So our relationship with the U.S. is fundamental.
Both candidates have expressed interest in reducing long border wait times and investing in more infrastructure along the border.
Both recognize the strategic importance of the relationship. You know, we're more than neighbors, we're partners.
Mexico's president serves one 6-year term. The election will be held on June 2nd. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
This is the first in a series of stories from KPBS on the Mexican election. Upcoming stories will focus on how the election will impact economic and environmental issues in the border region. KPBS is hosting a virtual conversation this month in both English and Spanish about the election. We want to hear from you. What topics do you want covered in this conversation? Submit your questions or comments at kpbs.org/Mexico election or call the number on your screen, 619-630-8516. Now to the U.S. presidential election. Former President Trump brought a handful of his potential running mates on stage during a fundraiser over the weekend. Some of those on the short list for vice president made high-profile TV appearances after the event. Julia Benbrook has this update.
Several of former President Donald Trump's potential running mates appeared with him at a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend.
There's a lot of names that are in the mix. I'm honored to have my names as one of them.
House GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum are among the names that have been floated.
Maybe there's a list of 50. If I'm on it, who would know? But it's not why I'm out supporting the president right now.
Several on that list seemingly continued their auditions with television appearances on Sunday.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Another politician who has been a part of the conversation is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. She also hit the airwaves this weekend defending herself after an excerpt of her book detailed her killing a goat and her 14-month-old dog on her farm.
This book is filled with vulnerable, painful moments in my life, filled with times where I've made very difficult decisions. The reason that this story is in the book because people need to understand who I am and some of those difficult decisions.
Sources say Noem was off the short list long before the excerpts dropped and won't be under consideration anytime soon. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
I'm William Brangham. Tonight on the NewsHour, Hamas and Israel trade ceasefire claims as Israel launches a targeted operation in parts of Rafah. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Metropolitan Transit System is proposing a new trolley line. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says officials hope the Copper Line will improve the trolley system's reliability.
Now, before you get too excited, MTS is not planning on laying down new trolley tracks. Instead, they're hoping to reconfigure the service on the existing tracks to create a system that hopefully works a little bit better for everyone. And it all has to do with this spot right here. We are at the Gillespie Field trolley station between Santee and El Cajon. And you can see down the line here, this is where the two tracks merge into a single track. That creates a pinch point that can cause delays on the entire orange and green lines. So if you're waiting extra long for a trolley at Snapdragon Stadium or Petco Park, there's a good chance that delay started right here. MTS's proposed fix is to end the orange and green line trolleys at the El Cajon Transit Center. From there, the new Copper Line would take passengers back and forth between El Cajon and Santee.
I ride the trolley probably 2-3 times a week.
Maxwell Gergen lives downtown and works in El Cajon. He loves the trolley, but says it can be unreliable. He's even gotten stranded late at night because of delays and cancellations.
Like, these are things that would prevent people from using the trolley or the buses ever again.
Gergen likes the idea of the Copper Line. He acknowledges some passengers would be inconvenienced by having to transfer, but he says everyone will share in the benefits.
You aren't going to be having cascading delays caused by the orange line or the green line. And also you're going to be having faster, more efficient service that's more reliable, that you won't feel will strand you.
MTS is planning on sending staff to the trolley stations in El Cajon and Santee to ask passengers for input on the proposed Copper Line. They'll also be taking comments on their website, sdmts.com, ahead of a final vote at the Board of Directors scheduled for June 20th. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Travelers can expect some major changes to what documents they need to fly. The enforcement of real IDs begins May 7th, 2025. That means you have 1 year to make sure you've got the documents you need in order to travel. Here's Jen Sullivan with what you need to know.
Some big changes are coming to what documents travelers need to board a domestic flight and or cross the border. As of May 7th, 2025, a traditional driver's license will no longer be accepted by TSA or U.S. Border Patrol. Instead, anyone 18 and older will need to present either a passport or a document known as a real ID or an enhanced license. You'll also need one of these to enter a federal building. So what is a real ID? Following the 9/11 attacks, the federal government set new security standards to obtain a state-issued driver's license and ID card, and some states began issuing them more than a decade ago. The standards will soon be enforced for people in all 50 U.S. states, territories, and D.C. The real IDs in most states have a star in the top right corner. Some states, like California, may have a slight variation to the design, but the star will still be there. So, what do you need to obtain a real ID? Some states may require proof of Social Security, either your original Social Security card or a tax document or pay stub showing your full Social Security number. Some states may require 2 proofs of residency, like a utility bill or bank statement. Proof of status, such as a U.S. passport, U.S. birth certificate, or permanent resident card. And proof of citizenship if you're not a U.S. citizen. Remember, some DMVs require you to make an appointment in advance, so plan ahead. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
If you fail to obtain an approved document by the May 7th deadline next year, you will be denied entry at all TSA security checkpoints. And if you're traveling internationally, you'll still need a passport. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and while you may know that taking care of your social, emotional, and mental well-being is good for you, did you know that it's also important for heart health? Mandy Gaither explains.
Eating a healthy diet and staying active, both good for your heart, but so is taking care of your mental health.
How you're feeling can directly affect your cardiovascular health and wellness.
Cardiologist Dr. Fred St. Gore with El Camino Health says many patients don't know the two go hand in hand. A 2022 report from the American Heart Association suggests social isolation and loneliness may raise the risk of having and even dying from a heart attack or stroke.
It's pretty clear why. And that is the level of stress, and stress which then leads to inflammation, which then leads to cardiovascular disease, is clearly and well documented to be higher in individuals who are either lonely or socially isolated.
While loneliness can be felt by anyone, St. Gore says it's significant in seniors, especially those who have lost a partner or friends, and in teens who spend a lot of time on devices instead of socializing in person.
The responsibility is really on the healthcare community to make sure that we get this message out, that our patients are well educated, well informed of the benefits of all these cardiovascular risk factor interventions.
St. Gore says that includes management of blood pressure, glucose levels, and cholesterol, good nutrition, weight management, regular exercise, and social activity.
We have a lot of different ways of intervening, certainly with pharmacology, with nutrition, but overall, probably the most important thing is engagement.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Research has shown that regular exercise is not only good for your body, but also your mind. The American Heart Association recommends 75 minutes of intense activity or between 100 and 150 minutes of light exercise every week. Chemicals from the insecticide DDT may be making their way into the food web near Catalina Island, starting at the ocean floor. That's according to research published today from UC San Diego and San Diego State University. As KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says, research links DDT to reproductive harm and cancer.
In the 1940s and 50s, a producer of the insecticide DDT legally dumped manufacturing waste into the ocean near Catalina and Palos Verdes. The U.S. banned DDT in 1972. But SDSU School of Public Health researcher Margaret Stack says traces of it remain in marine life decades later.
So we know that there is DDT in sediments, and we also see DDT in some really high trophic predators or animals that are really high up in the food web, like marine mammals and condors. But something that we're sort of missing is that middle link. How are we getting DDT from the sediment into top predators?
Stack and her colleagues think they've found that link at the Catalina site.
We found some of the same DDT compounds in the sediment and in these deep ocean fish. So we think that there is this link there, that sediment from the deep ocean could be providing DDT to the food web.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency says chemicals in DDT can cause liver and reproductive problems in animals and may cause cancer in humans.
So whenever it was really at its height, there was a lot of eggshell thinning in birds and pelicans and bald eagles. We do still see some evidence of eggshell thinning in certain species like California condors. And then even in sea lions, there's relationships between DDT and cancer.
Stack says that's why it's so important to know where and how it's getting into the food web all these years later. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
On the eastern edge of Imperial County, one California tribe has been restoring parts of the parched Colorado River. KPBS's Corey Suzuki has more on their efforts to bring back a native ecosystem.
Chase Choate beams as he explains the plan for the morning.
I'm happy to see everybody here, and when we do this, it's also to bring back the habitat.
The goal is to plant 700 trees before noon. Cottonwoods, willows, and honey mesquite saplings.
We also use the honey mesquite for our food. You know, that was our subsistence. Of course, the other parts of the mesquite tree we use for our shelter, for everything.
We're standing at the eastern edge of Imperial County, along the Colorado River. Over the last decade, the landscape here has slowly been changing. Acres of invasive salt cedar plants and other weeds are vanishing, replaced by swaths of thorny green trees dusted with bright yellow flowers. The Fort Yuma Quitsan tribe is pushing to restore these areas along the river, with the help of volunteers and tribal staff.
We've started restoring this riparian area next to the Colorado River back in 2010. And we've been getting small grants every year or every other year, depending on how long the grant lasts. Maybe 15 to 20 acres at a time, we would restore the area.
Choate says they have several long-term plans, including repairing parts of the ecosystem and boosting the ability of plant life to pull carbon from the atmosphere. But he says the effort is also about bringing the region together.
The goal isn't to plant everything, it's again to bring people together. Bring our community from Yuma, bring our native community, everybody, and just have a good time.
On this morning, though, the community makes short work of both of Choate's goals. By 10 a.m., they are already running low on trees. On the Quitsan Reservation, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
Now we will see some patchy low clouds later on tonight, but for the most part, not looking at that much cloud coverage around. Temperatures falling back into the mid-50s. A little cooler here further away from the coast. Some of the interior valleys down into the 40s for a time. And even Oceanside here down around the upper 40s at 50 degrees. Mount Laguna in the 40s too. And we'll be closer to 60 degrees here in Borrego Springs. The desert locations will be warming up in a big way here as we head our way into the weekend. Not a lot of cloudiness. Most of that is off the coast. You can see a little bit of an offshore flow here later on tonight. I think there could be a couple of clouds. Yeah, you see them right kind of grazing right along the shoreline there for a time in the morning, but for the most part, we'll be looking at some sunshine. A pleasant day setting up shop here, but if your travels take you north and east, say into northern areas of Arizona or perhaps into Utah, wind, rain, and snow could cause some delays there, so factor that in if you're traveling in that direction. Otherwise, locally and regionally here, we're in good shape. Back in the 90s for Borrego Springs. Plenty of sunshine, morning cloudiness, late day sun around Oceanside and into Chula Vista. And we'll see that dry air expand out as we work our way into Wednesday. There will be some local breezes along the northern California coast and also toward the mountainous terrain. We're going to be talking about some of those breezes coming in toward the canyons as well. Temperatures stay put here in the low 70s for highs for the coast as we look from Tuesday into Saturday. Again, some morning cloudiness, late day sun. A little bit more of a warming trend here from Thursday into the weekend for the interior valleys as we stay mostly sunny most days. And the mountains here too warming up in a big way as we go into Saturday. A little chilly here. And there's your breezes again Tuesday afternoon. For the deserts here too, we're climbing up back into the triple digits come Saturday afternoon with lots of sunshine for the next several days. For KPBS News, meteorologist Justin Pavic.
Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is covering the trend toward energy-efficient homes and how Native American tribes are helping to develop affordable climate technology. And KPBS Midday Edition will have a discussion on mental health in the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. Be sure to get the latest from KPBS News delivered to your inbox. Breaking news, arts, and our top headlines are all available as newsletters. You can sign up on our website, kpbs.org. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Tonight at 8, get wowed by treasures at Stan Highwood Hall and Gardens. Then the royal family deals with matters of the heart. And later, NASA psychologists prepare astronauts for a mission to Mars. That's tonight on KPBS. This evening's programs are made possible by the members of KPBS and our program underwriters.